Don't forget. Don't start the
face.
So yeah, don't start the. As soon as the intro starts, you can hit us on Facebook Live. Okay. That's the only. I don't want them to shut us off because of the music. Okay. Just let me know when you're all set. Double record.
Give me double record. Hold on.
It's all right.
Here we go. And we're going to go live. So give us a second here. And you're live. Go.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition. Strap in. You're about to listen to
The Animal House.
Your mother's an animal.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
What do you care? You're an animal. You're an animal.
Yeah.
I'm an animal.
Yeah.
Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
I feel the need for speed.
Raving speed!
The opinions expressed by the hosts, callers, and guests are not those of Hamilton Radio, Armed Forces Radio, Raw Talk Online, 102 DLG Radio Orlando, QStarFM.com, or Animal House Radio. Some of the material broadcast on Animal House Radio may not be suitable for listeners under the age of 18. Listener discretion is advised.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the Animal House Radio Show. Let's make some noise. Give it up, everybody. Yeah! Baby, ladies, and animals.
Yes.
Animal House Radio here on HamiltonRadio.org or .net, but it's Hamilton Radio. And now I present to you your very special host, the wild thing, Carlo Bellario.
Hey, hello, everybody. Hello, Governor. Boy. All right. We are ready to roll here today. I want to welcome everybody. Gene, hit us on Facebook Live. I want to welcome everybody back. We took the week off. We needed some rest, and we're back stronger than ever. We've got a great show for you lined up tonight. Tonight we have two very special guests and one in-studio guest who's not so special, but no, he is. Just kidding. In studio with us tonight is the one and only, the incomparable, the often imitated but never duplicated Steve the Killer Keller.
All right, Steve.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Okay, it's good to be had.
It's nice being had, yeah.
Steve is our official music correspondent or rock correspondent, heavy metal correspondent, and he handles all things heavy metal as well as himself on a daily basis. And Steve is also the front man for New Jersey's premier band, Ripped. And if you want to find out more about Ripped, you go to reverbnation.com/RippedNJ.
Yes, sir.
See that? That's a good memory, huh?
Yeah, you did well.
You've been telling me it for how many years now?
Many.
But we're going to talk about that later when we have some time, about some concerts that we've been to this summer. And Steve got the privilege to meet with the Guess Who. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But joining us tonight, and just a few minutes, about 10 minutes, Tobin Bell. For all you horror movie fans out there, you'll know Tobin Bell from the Saw movie franchise. They've done 8 movies, and they show no signs of slowing down. And we're going to check in with him about his career and about the making of the movies and what's he doing now. And a little later on in the program, joining us will be musician, singer, songwriter Dennis Dunaway from the Alice Cooper Group.
Oh, well, that's big.
It is. It's huge.
And he's doing his own thing. He's got a video coming out. He's got a new book coming out, and we're going to talk to him about that. I think it's called Snakes, Guillotines, Electric Chairs, and it says My Adventures in the Alice Cooper Group, if I'm not mistaken. That's a new book. It's out on Amazon now, so I recommend everybody picking that up. I want to welcome all our syndicated stations, QStarFM.com, Mr. Steve Jarrett down in Florida, 102 DLG Radio Orlando with my good friend Louis Cedeno, a.k.a. DJ Friction. Raw Talk Online, Chaz Richardson and his crew, they got a great show down there, and we're happy to be part of their network. Also, govsradio.com at a Governor's Comedy Club, newly adopted, and we're looking forward to continuing with them as well. And most importantly, Armed Forces Radio Network, who's bigger and better, and the response we've been getting is amazing. And I want to thank all our service men and women over there for sending me the emails.
Yeah.
And they're liking what we're doing. And they really appreciate that nobody's forgetting them, which I think is, and they're really, a lot of people were grateful, especially the veterans, about all the shows that we accommodated them with this summer. So it made me feel good to be able to do that.
It really does. I know what you mean. It does make you feel good. It's like, wow, that's nice.
Yeah, tonight's show is brought to you in part by Central Termite and Pest Control. Sean Mooney and his family have been serving the Ocean County area for over 60 years. Please give them a call, 732-240-2066. And if somebody's bugging you, you give Sean a call.
Yeah, I like that one.
All right, for everybody that's listening, whether you're listening to us on Facebook or on the Hamilton Radio feed, I need some help from you guys. I really would like you to follow us on Twitter at the Radio Animals. On Instagram, it's Animal House Radio. Check out our social media, especially the Facebook page. I got to get I want to get 1,000 likes. Go to our Facebook page, the Animal House Radio Show. Steve Keller just put up a phenomenal article, a review of the Judas Priest Deep Purple concert.
Oh.
And Tim, I wanted you to go, but you were too busy hanging out with your buddy, and I was like, damn.
That's the one night a week I get to hang out with him. He's got a steady girlfriend for about 9 years now.
And that's the only night she lets him out?
Actually, pretty much right.
He gets paroled once a week.
I give them credit. Weekends are together, and I don't have that in my life, but, it's okay. So I'm glad to get to see him. Hey, let's not forget our engineer, Gino Gabagool.
Gene Piero, he's so far we're 8 minutes into the show, and he hasn't screwed up, so it's a banner day here. We're glad he's recovered from his MRSA attack or whatever that was on his vegetation on his arm, whatever that was. But
he looks like Hemingway. He really does, man. Wow.
He does. No, he looks like...
The before or after?
Yeah. Running with the Bulls, are we?
No, Gisela said it best. You put a hat on him, he looks like Papa Smurf. But we're glad Gene is feeling better and serving him. He's back to servicing his family. And, running and getting Danny a chicken salad sandwich and picking her up, dropping her off. And
it is totally a family-run operation here. It's kind of cool. It really is,
They tell Gene what to do and he does it, or else they're going to run him out of the family.
A very financially destitute family. No, I'm kidding. It's great. This studio here on above Robbinsville Towers, it's a nice area, man. It really is.
Oh, absolutely. And... so we're looking forward to a good show tonight. But Steve, I want to get your opinion on the Judas Priest Deep Purple show. I'd never seen Judas Priest better. Rob Halford's voice, this guy does not. You see a lot of people. I was also impressed with Eddie Money last year. I was expecting him to not be as well, but he was great. Ann Wilson blew me away with her vocals.
Yeah, sure did.
That whole night was great. Ann Wilson, Paul Rogers, Jeff Beck. Oh my God, one evening. That was fantastic.
Especially the catalog of music that Wilson performed that night too.
Well, yeah, because she did one Heart song, which was great because she covered so many bases.
She opened with a Who song, did 2 Who songs.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
She went so far back. She actually did "You Don't Know Me."
Yeah.
I can't think of her name all of a sudden. I love that young lady. I had her on a show I did
Patsy
years ago.
Cline?
No, it was Leslie Gore. Right?
Leslie Gore was the
yeah,
original. Yeah. Great show, and she's got some new music coming out that she's dedicating to some people that are not with us anymore, and she's going to be covering their songs.
I think it's called Immortal.
Immortal, that's right.
Yeah.
I couldn't
That's
think of the
right,
word.
she
I was
said
thinking
that.
of Legends, but I think she covers a song by Chris Cornell and a bunch of other great artists.
What was cool was she didn't necessarily do the biggest hits. She just did what
she
was in
liked.
her soul.
Right, she
Yeah,
liked
exactly.
of what she liked, which wasn't necessarily like a commercial hit or the bigger hit. The only strange thing I got to say about the Ann Wilson thing was the meet and greet. We get and they were great to us. That's not even the point. We went back there and she was sitting at a table, and the whole area was decorated. It looked like I was on the set of Austin Powers.
Yep.
And she looked like she was gonna read our fortunes. She looked like a
Oh God,
psychic.
yeah. She was dressed like it. Yeah.
Yeah, and she looked terrified at us. There was only now usually when you go to a meet and greet, you're talking a couple hundred people, maybe 60, 100, whatever.
Yeah.
There was 8 people there.
It was like she was greeting the Manson family.
Yeah, and she was just, and then we read the riot act before we even went in.
We did.
You can't look at her, stare straight ahead, don't touch her, you just had a
Don't touch her. That's what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, I get it because I understand they have concerns and stuff, and that's what they do. But it's like you couldn't. I think Tim.
I got her to laugh.
You took a chance by even saying, "I am the Eggman."
I did right before they snapped the picture of me with Ann Wilson. I said, "By the way, something you need to know: I am the Eggman."
At least you
And
didn't
she
say.
started to giggle.
Yeah.
At least you didn't say, "Hit me with your rhythm stick."
Yeah.
If she
And
wasn't,
during the blockheads, right?
if she wasn't terrified then, and after that she was terrified. She was like,
Oh no! But I kept my tongue in my mouth the rest of the.
Her
meet and greet.
publicist was like, "Ann, if you're in trouble, just blink."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
She did not blink, but I think she was ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Gene, let's get Tobin Bell on the line.
Oh God, I couldn't wait for this.
But
big
how,
stuff.
Steve, you said no, but I love Ian Gillan. I thought he was off vocally. Just a little, it wasn't as powerful. It seemed like he struggled to do Highway Star.
Yeah. Well, you got to figure he blew his voice out probably by 1986
Yeah.
after the Perfect Strangers album, which was a huge comeback album for them. But
Right.
even before that, like in 1980, he already had the nodes on his vocal cords. And
weren't they using Ronnie Dio by then as their singer too?
no, that was
Or
Sabbath.
Blackmore's Rainbow.
Yeah.
310
However,
430.
We're just conducting a bingo game.
oh, I see.
That's all right.
But no, Gillan, you got to remember, he invented the way a frontman acts in the 70s. He just blew it out. And, then we saw Glenn Hughes do the Deep Purple catalog, and he's, I think, 70 years old, maybe a little older, and he's still got it. He can do all that Gillan stuff.
Oh, I'm telling you, I can't live without Hush and Highway Star. Oh God, those are on my playlist any day of the week.
Yeah.
But I tell you, just the theatrics was a great show, and I mean, we saw Judas Priest last year. We think it was in October in New Jersey, and they blew that performance away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just with the.
They're at the top of their game.
Yeah, I don't understand. And then they're going to tour with Ozzy. But unfortunately, it's going to be overseas. I wish they were doing it here.
Ozzy is going to have a hard time following them because vocally he's a little rough. His latest shows have been mediocre, according to the press, which I believe, by the way. Because he's been doing it a long time. The band is hot. He's a little tired.
Yeah, I believe it too.
Yeah.
You want to know how great Deep Purple really is? They took a Neil Diamond song and made it major, Kentucky Woman.
They did. That was on the first album with Hush,
God.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a Neil Diamond cover. And
They did the Beatles' Help on that album
Yeah,
as well,
they sure
but
did.
they did a slow, moody version where the Beatles were like happily singing "Help." They were.
You know what? It's funny you say that. There's a Rolling Stone tribute magazine out about John Lennon, and I was reading it just the other day. Lennon said, like in one of his final interviews, he wanted to redo "Help" as a solo. He didn't like the way the Beatles put it out. He wanted it to be slower and more heartfelt.
He was probably referring to the Deep Purple version.
You're darn right, man.
Yeah.
Gene, let's try Tobin again.
Okay, hold on. I got him. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, you got him?
Through Tobin. Hold on. You got him.
Hello, Tobin.
Yeah, how you doing?
Hi, all right, everybody. It is 8:45. Joining us now on the phone is a legendary actor who's been very busy of late, but he's taken a few minutes out of his busy schedule to be with us here tonight. You may know him from the Saw movie franchise. Please welcome for the first time on the Animal House Radio Show and Armed Forces Radio Network. Please welcome Mr. Tobin Bell.
All right, Tobin.
Tobin.
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Happy to be with you today.
Oh,
it's sunny Southern California.
Just rub it in, why don't you?
Wherever you are, I hope you're nice and warm.
Yeah, rub it in. We're getting remnants from the storm. Meanwhile, you're basking in the sun. That's nice.
Yeah, where are you? Are you in the Carolinas?
No, we're in Jersey, but we're getting remnants coming our way. But it's not too bad. But I want to really thank you. A big fan of yours for a long time, and it's an honor just to be talking with you today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on with you guys. Thank you very much.
So I don't know where to begin with you, but I got so many questions. I'd like to, since it's your first time with us, if you'll indulge us a little bit. And
sure.
How did it start for you? When did Tobin Bell know he wanted to be an actor? Where did it begin for you?
I think I was maybe 7 or 8 years old. I was so impressed with sitting in the dark watching those people like Montgomery Clift and James Dean and Brando, Tony Perkins, guys like Gary Cooper. I might be dating myself, but they're just guys who brought their roles to, when I would leave the theater, I would think, wow, that was really them. And that was fascinating to me that actors had an opportunity to change people's mindsets in an hour and a half sitting in the theater.
Well, watching those guys, you had a tremendous amount of role models because everyone that you named is iconic.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and there's so many more I didn't name. People like Carl Malden and just actors who cared deeply about what they did, and I always wanted to learn, well, what the hell technique did they learn to do that, and what's there? And so when I got to New York, I was at the Neighborhood Playhouse for a while, and I auditioned for the Actors Studio, which was the root of a lot of the good work that went on the screen in the 50s and 60s, continues to, and so I got a lot of training from Lee Strasberg at the Actors Studio, and feel very fortunate because of that.
You know what? I wanted to, I did some acting on the side. Nothing, of course, to your level, but and everybody I talked to says you got to go. They all recommended Lee Strasberg, but at the time, it was just that financially it was out of reach for me. But I mean, I wish I would have just bit the bullet and did it. But like I said, I can't tell you how many times people have said the Lee Strasberg, and how many people have came out of there. So I mean, it was
yeah, and even directors. Look at Sidney Lumet and Elia Kazan.
Yeah, those
guys who did On the Waterfront and East of Eden and films like that with James Dean and even Maurice Saint was an amazing actress and directors like Sidney Lumet, who used, if you see Dog Day Afternoon with John Cazale and Al Pacino, and the entire cast is from the Actors Studio, and Sidney Lumet, was a huge fan of a particular kind of acting where it made you feel like you were really there and those people were real people, and drew you in. They know how to draw you in. It was a lot of character and relationship was important then, not so much plot.
Right, right.
So,
Yeah, I actually I saw you about a month or so ago. You were in New Jersey, and I brought some veterans down to the Monster Mania in Cherry Hill, and
yeah,
I love going to those things. It's like you know what, going to those conventions, Tobin, is like Christmas shopping. You love to do it, but it's such a grueling thing because I've never seen a line that long in my life to get to your table. I mean, I've been in shorter lines at motor vehicles.
yeah, I know. It's a testament to the success of the soft films, I think. You know, because, and of course, those conventions, horror fans are a unique breed of people. They don't have conventions for romantic comedies.
No,
or for historical dramas or period pieces, but with horror fans, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
They so appreciate the genre, and it's for them a hobby. It's not just going to the movies.
Right. Well, they know it. That they're diehards. They know. What amazes me, and I'm not even a guest at a convention like you are, is like they'll come up to you and tell you stuff that you don't even remember that you did. And like if you were on a movie shoot for one day, they're like, yeah, I have a poster of you and you did this. It's amazing. And you're right when you say that.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, and
it's a long day. It's a long day, and you're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of people. But it's inspiring when you become an actor to try to touch people. To try to have people have the same reaction that I had when I was in the back row of the theater in Weymouth, Massachusetts, at 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
So, it's inspiring to have a chance to meet some of those people and see what their experience was. And that's what's beautiful about film. It doesn't just go away. It's there. And people experience it at different times, like the Saw films. There's a whole new audience for the Saw films.
Oh, yeah.
I talked to a girl today. She was 10 or 11 years old. I don't know when she saw them, but it certainly wasn't back when they started in 2003.
Right.
She's watched them recently, so
yeah,
and that's a great thing too.
You know what? It's amazing about that. It's almost like I grew up on heavy metal rock and roll music, 70s, 80s, and I've seen Foreigner back in '82 in their heyday when Lou Gramm was performing, and now you go to see them. When I first saw them, that was just one generation of people going to that show. Now there's like 5 generations of people. Like there's like people's grandchildren going, and they know the music just as well as the people who grew up with it. And the one thing I noticed about you at the conventions, and I'm not knocking a lot of the other guests, but you actually sit there, and I saw you talking to this little boy. He couldn't have been more than 7 years old, and you're high-fiving him and stuff. And you're not just like signing a photo and rushing him out. And I thought I couldn't get over to you because I was exhausted. But I said, that's a guy who really appreciates his craft.
Yeah, I love kids anyway. But and they're always so refreshing and a bright light, when they show up at the table. And there's a perfect example. Families who have like one brief vacation a year, and they choose to get on the road, and they'll drive from freaking Cleveland, and bring the kids, and there's so many venues in a convention like that with all kinds of sparkly things and costume things, and the kids love that, and so it's more than just a movie. It becomes more than just a movie. It becomes kind of a celebration of sorts, and the people that come don't take it lightly. They travel long distances. I can do a show in Dallas, and people drive all the way up from the Gulf, 13-hour drive.
Oh, wow.
So I don't take that lightly
Well,
in any way.
If anything, horror fans are without a doubt the most loyal of all the genres I've seen, and they hold their actors and their movies to a high standard, and that leads me to my next question. The Saw movie, correct me if I'm wrong, was the first movie of yours that you did that was horror based, right?
Yes.
And did you have any idea that this was going to become like a iconic franchise?
No, not until they called me. I was in the Czech Republic in Prague doing a series for NBC, and they called and said they were thinking about doing a Saw 2, and they sent me the script, and that was the first that I really wasn't paying much attention to Saw 1 or how it was doing, or for me it was just I wanted to work with Danny Glover because I had never worked with him.
Oh wow!
And I loved the ending of Saw 1.
Yeah.
And I thought if they did that well, it would be an amazing moment in film. And it was just there's different reasons why you do things. It was in L.A. I had the time. I had a car payment. And
Big reason.
So that was. All of those things came together, but I frankly was not thinking about it becoming more than just one film. And then, but when we did 2, I thought, ooh, I can get up off the floor here and show what this guy is, what's on his mind.
Yeah, you know what? That's what I wanted to ask you. It's very rare, and my thing is, as a viewer and an audience, a horror movie fan, how do there's 8 in the franchise, which you don't really see that much of. It's maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3. Friday the 13th went way overboard, and I after like 6, I had to jump ship, and believe me, I love that whole franchise. But with Saw, I noticed that each one of those movies, it got better than the last one, which and no offense to any other genre or franchise, it's you don't really see that much, and I think that's what kept audiences interested. But what I wanted to ask is, through the 8 movies, they don't really explain to you why this guy is doing what he's doing, though. Is it?
Well, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. There are a number of compelling reasons, and John talks about them a lot. He's moved by, for example, the treatment of the terminally ill by the medical community. That's a continuing theme for him, and he's there's certain things that time is also a continuing thing. With Saw movies, what you see is not necessarily what you get. It's very deceptive in that way. And John is moved by, he's very interested in the human condition, including all of our frailties. And he's exploring what makes people tick, actually.
Right.
Every time you see him dealing with someone, he says it a number of times, if you're good at anticipating the human condition, there's not a lot of risk involved. And so he sets up these games, and I like the games that have most to do with people's karma, and those are the ones that interest me the most, and ones that are simple mechanically, ones that he could have built himself.
Wow.
And so he definitely, frankly, I think the root of your question is why he's doing what he's doing, and I don't think that we've sufficiently, I think we've touched on it,
Right.
But I don't think we've sufficiently explained it. And sometimes people like to come to their own conclusions. And we're working on that.
Right.
And I think people are fascinated with his approach to dealing, and they always want to know more. And should we go forward, which I'm not sure if we will or not, there will be more.
Oh well, I was going to just ask you: do you think that as another movie is made, will they reveal more of that, or will they just leave it up to the imagination? But also, I wanted to ask you, when it comes to horror movies, and I think the audiences hold them to the highest of standards, because how did Saw, and I think it did it brilliantly. Just the premise of the whole, from the first movie on through the whole franchise, was like groundbreaking to me. But how do you, as the actor and conversely the directors and the producers, how do you keep it fresh to where it's not just another hacky slasher type movie that'll still enthrall the audiences? I think that's the hardest part for horror.
What sets the Saw movies apart, I think, is that they have concepts in them.
Yeah.
They're not just a series of, twists and turns and surprises and slasher moments. There's things in the Saw films that make people think, and I think that's why people continue to come back and see the films, because of that. They want to know what's going to happen. They want to know what's the next step in the story, and
exactly.
It's been contributed to in so many different kinds of ways. From, the producers, they really are very devoted to creating the best Saw movie that they can.
Yes.
And then we always, once we have a script, then we all sit down and we work on it and make changes and tighten it up. And I've been so impressed with people's reaction to Jigsaw, which was the most recent. It would be the 8th edition of Saw, but it's been extremely popular with people, because I think there was a hiatus in between Saw 7 3D and of about 9 years, I think.
Yes.
And so when Jigsaw came around, people were ready for it, both old fans, and then there were all these kids that had grown up.
Right.
And so, what you were talking about before with Foreigner and new fans showing up is a wonderful thing.
Yes.
If you have a story to tell and some good writers to write it.
Absolutely, yeah. Tim?
The way you describe it is like perfect. There's nothing really gratuitous in the whole series of movies. It actually challenges you to think and to try to figure things out too, and that's part of the appeal. Plus, you having been there from the first movie and all through, you've got a lot of input to the development of the character, I'm sure, between the writing and what you've done. How much of an influence do you have on the writing of, like, for instance, Saw 8, being that you've been there from the beginning?
Saw 8, being also known as Jigsaw, directed by Michael and Peter Spierig, Australian directors. Loved working with them. They were very open to any thoughts that I had. And I felt they were really smart and one step ahead, hardworking, and with a really great artistic sense and a marvelous team. They came with their own cinematographer, a guy from Australia his name's Ben Knott, N-O-T-T, and he, if you look at the barn, the way the barn is lit, and in Jigsaw, he did an amazing job. So I worked with, Darren Bousman directed three of these episodes. David Hackle directed one. Kevin Greuter directed one. And of course, we go back to one, and we got James Wan. So there's been a number of different directors, and they're all very, very dedicated to. First of all, most of them love horror.
Right.
So that's a step in the right direction. A lot of them have been very schooled and very trained on horror since they were kids, which is unlike me. I didn't have a lot of experience with horror. Mm-hmm. So really what I do is, there's these guys the special effects guys, the traps guys, the set designers, all those people have their jobs. They look to me to bring some sense of humanity to this guy, and that's what I do. They don't need me to, play the direction of the plot necessarily.
Right.
The story itself will bear that out. They need a window into what's happening inside the guy to make you more drawn in, to make you more interested in the events as they play out.
Yeah. You know what I think, Tobin? The fact that you've done the whole franchise so far, it speaks volumes to me as a viewer, because I think that keeps the that's what makes it sets it apart from other horror movie franchises. Like for example, Friday the 13th. It's an iconic movie, but how many different Jasons were there? I think that confuses the people. And the writing in Saw and Jigsaw and throughout the whole franchise is brilliant. Obviously, the talent of the cast and the production value speaks for itself. But I just think that having you there, the continuity of it sets it apart, and it makes it what it is and why it was so successful, as opposed to having 4 different Michael Myers, 4 different Jasons, and stuff like that. So I think that's where Saw sets itself apart from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, you could do the same thing with horror as you can do with any other genre.
Yes.
It just depends on the writing. By that I mean you can layer the film, and there are different layers in a Saw film, whereas in a Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, and there's not as many layers. There are things that make you think in this film. There are characters and relationships that hopefully, which we always are working toward, feel real, and that you care about the people in some way. And you don't have to agree with them or think what they're doing is right, but if you get a window into what they're thinking, into why they're doing what they're doing and how they're doing, and you get a sense of who they are, then you connect in some way. And if you can connect with the viewer, then something will happen.
Yeah. And you know what? I have to ask you, Tobin, we our servicemen and women overseas, they just love horror. They eat it up like candy, and they sent us a lot of requests about having different, like we've had Kane Hodder on and Sid Haig, great people, and it's interesting because Sid Haig said something to me, and I'm going to tell you why I'm asking you this. He says that he got asked to do one horror movie, and then from then on, that's all they saw him as, is this big scary guy, and he had to stop and say, wait a minute, look at my body of work here. I've done a lot more. He was in a James Bond film. He was in a lot of stuff that didn't involve horror, and I think you get stereotyped. Now, you have an impressive resume on IMDb. I looked at all your stuff, and I remember you in a lot of the TV stuff. Are you afraid that's going to happen to you, that you're going to get stereotyped into that type of genre, or does it matter to you, or you just, as long as you're working, you're happy?
Has it ever occurred to me? Yeah, it occurs to me. Am I worried about it? No. If an artist creates, and it's my job to create my career. It's my job to create, to express, to find modus operandi to express the things that interest me.
Right.
And I'm about to go to South Carolina to do a little independent film called The Old Man in the Pond, and is very, very well written and deep. As it's not what I would call a super, it's not a blockbuster or a very huge commercial success type film, but it's important, and it's an opportunity to show a particular. I mean, I've played so many different kinds of guys, from priests to astronauts to cowboys, you name it, and that's part of the fun of being an actor. And because you have a big success in something, success can come with baggage, or what you might call baggage, but I don't call it baggage, because I just got to get, whatever's going to. I just keep working hard to be a creative guy, write my own stuff. People send me scripts. I look for high-quality stuff and variety and different kinds of things. So you find your way. And does that sort of thing happen in a commercial environment? Yeah, it does, what you're talking about. It can happen. Yeah. No, I'm not worried about it. I'm grateful. I would never, I am so much more well-known now than prior to Saw. So... and that kind of, by that I mean, by well-known, it gives me an opportunity to meet fans, to represent Lionsgate when it comes to the Saw films. It comes with baggage, and it also comes with blessings. So it's like everything else in life.
Yeah, you know what? And I believe me, when I asked you that, I meant it as a compliment. I didn't mean to.
No, I know. I know that. But it's a good question.
Yeah,
it's true.
And the funny thing about that was when we talked to Sid about it, he said he wanted to actually quit the business because that's how frustrated he got. But I know that's not even your concern. But like I said, you're right. Doing something like that, it opens up a lot of other doors for stuff that you maybe even wanted to do that you didn't think was possible beforehand. So there is definitely an upside.
I mean, how many people have seen, directors and writers have seen the Saw films, and they know what I can do. So they come to me with scripts, different kinds of characters. I've had the pleasure of doing some wonderful roles, and I've got some interesting things coming up as well, and I feel extremely fortunate.
Yeah, well, Steve, you had a question, or?
Well, yeah, more of a comment. When you were talking about the longevity of his career with the Saw franchise, I was thinking back to Darren Stevens, how two different Darrens on Bewitched confused me. So it's such a good thing that you were there from the beginning. That's
yeah, well, that was for the fans and for us, I think it was better, and it shows in each movie.
Yeah.
Now, Tobin, you said you're going to South Carolina. You're going to be doing The Old Man and The Pond. Anything else that you're currently working on that we should be on the lookout for?
Or? A couple of things that it's hard for me to talk about, but one of is a television piece that I'm developing with a couple of very experienced guys over at HBO, and I'm excited about that, and working with a couple of really good writers on it, and it's pretty intense stuff. So I'm hoping that that happens, and I've been asked to do a couple of different films in the UK coming in the coming months, and we're looking at those scripts as well.
Oh, that's amazing. And I just, you know what, Tobin, I can't thank you enough for taking some time. I know you're tremendously busy, and I want to especially thank Kate Edwards for making this happen. Tobin, can I ask you a small favor before we let you go this evening?
Mm-hmm.
Would you do a station ID for us here?
Sure.
Basically, you're going to introduce yourself, and say you're listening to Animal House Radio on the Hamilton Radio Network.
Animal House Radio?
Yes. On the, you'll say like, hi, this is Tobin Bell. You're listening on the Hamilton Radio Network. Whenever you're ready, you go.
Got it. All right. Hi, this is Tobin Bell. You're listening to Animal House Radio on Hamilton Radio Network.
Thank you so much, Tobin. I just want you to know that you have an open door anytime you need us. And I know on behalf of our servicemen and women overseas, they loved you. The anticipation of you coming on, the buzz was amazing. And I know they're rolling.
Thank you. Oh, that's great. And thank you very much, guys. And I hope I have an opportunity to get to visit
yes,
someplace, some U.S. some Army base, or I want to be there and shake some of the hands of guys who have sacrificed so much for us all.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
Well, the next time you're in Jersey at a convention, I'll make sure we bring some vets out for you to say hello to.
great. Thank you.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Tobin Bell, everybody.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Oh, that was great. Great guy. And he's very, you could see he's very into that character. And he's just an amazing actor. And I'm not even talking with the Saw stuff. If you look at his stuff on IMDb, he has got a body of work that's unbelievable. And he was already accomplished. And this is like the crowning achievement for him. And I know we're going to see a lot more great stuff from him.
Well, because he's been there from day one, that he is that character.
Yeah, you know,
So
and
the-
I think that's important because, you know, like I loved Friday the 13th. Don't get me
Right.
wrong, and I'm very close friends with Kane Hodder. But every other episode, it was a different
Right.
Jason, and I think that takes away from the franchise because now, you know, you have there's two different Jasons, two different mannerisms, and it's going to come out on the screen.
Well, as he was saying, too, he's had different writers for this series, different directors and producers. He was the only constant.
Right.
So it's almost like, all right, because he is the character, he has all the intricacies and nuances down for that character. They have to mold that around him instead of them just presenting a script and saying, do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but see, my question is to somebody who is making the movies, and I mean, there's always disputes between actors and movie companies, but why would you use different people? Is it just, you know what I'm saying? I don't understand that. You know, I'm not in the movie business, so I can't begin to, make suppositions about anything. But it's just, like I said, and I think it shows. If you watch those eight, they get like you actually, and yes, it's gory and it's bloody, but it's really tastefully done. You know what I'm saying? It's
Can't
not
think of
like,
a better way to put it exactly.
It's not like a schlocky horror film where the guy's hanging you up on the wall, he stabs you, and the guy's run while he's killing me and all that other.
Yeah.
And audiences love that. You know, America's fallen in love with horror movies, and
And I don't get it, to be honest with you, but that's just me.
Yeah, I like it. People, Donald Pleasance once, who was played Dr. Loomis in Halloween. He once did like, I don't know if it was like a documentary. He was talking about horror movies. The movie studios are programming you to go nuts, but people want to be scared shitless. You know, whoever said the people who hate horror movies the most are the ones that love it the most. You know,
That's a good way to put it. It got me thinking. Donald Pleasance too. Obviously, he was. I saw him. Do you remember Rod Serling's Night Gallery? Rod Serling.
Oh, yeah.
I know Pleasance did an episode of that. But I remember a non-horror movie he did, which was a blockbuster, The Great Escape.
Oh,
He
yeah.
played the prisoner that was losing his eyesight.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's a great movie.
You're darn right. So he was one heck of a talent, Donald Pleasance, no doubt about it.
You know, and now, don't get me wrong. And a matter of fact, we're going to be getting her on in a couple of weeks. I just confirmed it. Jamie Lee Curtis will be on this show.
Nice.
Yeah, they're doing a new horror. They're doing a new Halloween, which I love you, Jamie. But what else where there's. You see, unlike Saw, where are you going to go with this?
Well, she could go somewhere with me. Forget the Saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I want. No, she's fantastic and always was, but
No, but where are you going to go with the Michael Myers camera? You know, they've killed him. He's not dead. If we get it, he's not. Yeah. And you want to know something? Michael Myers is my favorite horror movie character of all time. He's not like a gory, ugly monster. He's got that plain white mask on with the blank stare, and when as a kid it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, I get that.
And believe it or not, and I didn't know this, I found out years ago that mask was actually a Captain Kirk mask that they altered.
I just found that out recently too. Believe it or not, I did. It was on Facebook or something, and there were pictures of it, how they altered it for that character. Yes, they did.
Yeah, it was a Captain
wow.
Kirk mask.
That's right.
And initially they didn't call him Michael Myers. He was going to be called The Shape. And I actually and I'm pretty excited about this. I have, you know me, I go to conventions. I'm a nut. And this weekend, actually, a good segue. This weekend in Atlantic City at the Showboat is HorrorCon in New Jersey, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and they have a great. Ryan Weber and Robert Bruce, they just put on an amazing show every year. This year, it's gotten so big that they had to move it to Atlantic City because the Woodbridge Hilton couldn't handle it anymore. And kudos to them because these guys, as soon as the one convention ends, they already start planning the next one. They've got Dee Snider there. They've got Elvira. They've got Cheech Marin's going to be there.
Cheech!
I actually want to go down and say hi to him because I want to yell at him because he's got the world's worst publicist that you can't. She does not answer anybody's, and he keeps telling me, I want to do the interview. He says, you got to call Yvette. I said, she's not answering us. I can't shake her down. And they got a great lineup, and there's going to be a lot of, and you know what? Besides the guests that are going to be, I love going here to see what kind of collectible toys they have.
That
there's
too.
always
I do
that
get a kick
one,
out of that. Yeah.
There's always that one toy that I want. Like I'm trying to find the AC/DC one with Brian Johnson and Angus Young. It's like a diorama, but they're action figures in a box. The one guy had it for sale for $50, and I had $45 on me. He wouldn't take it. I said, "You're going to be here tomorrow." I went there the next day. It was gone. So. But.
Yeah, we got to get our listeners and our viewing audience out there too. That's a good show.
Yeah, you guys want to go. It's New Jersey, spelled out, horrorcon.com. Check it out. Tickets are only, I think, $35.
Oh, yeah.
And listen, you're in Atlantic City. You go hang out. You take a couple of photos with some of the celebrities.
Right.
And you go and eat in the Showboat, or you go on Atlantic City. You go walk on the pier. It's supposed to be a great weekend weather-wise.
It's pretty much worth it. It is.
You know, and you know what's cool that's going to be there? Mr. Belding from the Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
Dennis Haskins is going to be there, which is
Now there's a typecast fellow.
Yeah. But see, to me, he's like a one-hit wonder because I don't know anything else that he's done.
Yeah.
You know, Cheech Marin is a funny
I
comedian.
He's a nice guy.
And yeah, we had a ball with him up in the Mayo Center. It was funny. We went to see them in April at the Mayo Center in Morristown, and Tommy Chong comes out. He goes, hey everybody, I hear Morristown's got the best pot around. And they go, yeah. He goes, I should know. I brought it. That was great when he said that.
I'm convinced at this point, after the last 30 seconds, I have to ditch whatever friends I have and just permanently hang out with you.
Oh, we have a good time.
Yeah,
I am dead serious.
Tim, I don't have a lot of money to do these things. Sometimes I go there with nickels in my pocket, but life's too short. Yeah. What am I going to do, sit home and...
No, I go to sports bars. I get waited on by Skin Tag Sally.
And then you hang out with those girls that were having an acid trip at the what was the concert? Jeff Beck?
That was the Beck and Wilson, yeah.
Tim was sitting with me, and the next thing I know, he's sitting in front of me, and this little slinky blonde is sitting next to him, and she's going like this. I'm like, Tim, is she having a attack? Oh, she's a friend of mine. She must have been in like the cheap seats. So Tim must have been, hey, listen, I'm in the fifth row. Why don't you come down here with me?
Exactly.
And then she must have went after the show. He must have said, why don't you sit in my car and
And then she stole
my
car.
They go way back. The lemonade stand.
Yeah, she stole my car.
She stole his car. Oh my God. But
but I'm serious, man. I just listen every week. I'm here, and it's like, Carlo, what'd you do? Well, we Cheech and Chong and this, and we got Vinny Gagazzini from Ocean something,
I try to incorporate everybody into There's some shows I couldn't get. Like I wanted to see Rod Stewart and Cyndi Lauper, and it was just that publicist was a nightmare. After promising me, and it was a total. Oh my God, but.
Yeah, promises are big in any form of entertainment, even at our level. Promises are big from a lot of people.
Yeah.
Hey, come on out, come on out.
Now Tim's been to a few shows, and but I gotta ask because Keller's my wingman most of the time. What was the best show we saw? You feel that you saw this summer?
That's really a tough one, but Jeff Beck, because I've never seen him before, and he's amazing.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
My God. You know what that reminded me of, Steve? When he was on, it was like I was at G3.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because he's not big on vocals.
No.
And it was oh my God. He reminded me of Satriani type of thing.
Well, his guitar does talk. I mean,
yeah.
It sings,
God, yeah.
baby. Yeah.
God, yeah.
Even Paul Veneer was amazed at that, and And he had a girl with a cello playing on
she
stage.
was
Really
awesome, too.
interesting arrangement. It worked.
Yeah.
What a great band.
And she didn't even use her bow. She just did it with her chest, you know? And it was incredible music.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, but that's a hard question for me, too, because I have never seen Jeff Beck before. I've never seen Paul Rogers before either.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Beck was big for me because, again, I'm older than you guys. He was one of the Yardbirds. And
Yeah,
that's one
Have
of
you
my...
saw him? Have you seen the Yardbirds?
Oh, never.
No.
I almost... Like 10 years ago, I know what's left of the Yardbirds, they play around, but it's, obviously Beck's not there, Page isn't there, the singer's dead, Clapton's not there. So they were in New Hope, and I almost went. But I was like, nah, it's only like two of the original guys, really. It was McCarty and Chris Dreja, who I think was the bass player. Obviously everybody else, maybe Samuel Smith, I don't know, but I guess,
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, I was too young to really appreciate then the Yardbirds, but no. I can't live without him now.
I've been listening to the Yardbirds since I was a young boy, though. I love that band.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they had Clapton. Clapton leaves, they bring in Beck. Then they had another backup guitarist. He leaves, they bring in Page. I mean, what rock group can do that? For real, you know?
Yeah.
It's even now, talking about rock, McCartney's the same way. He wrote Love Me Do before the Beatles, 1958. 60 years later, he's got a new album out. What other rocker could ever say that?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what your
I
taste
didn't know
is.
that. Is that he wrote that before the
Before
Beatles?
the Beatles, yeah. When he was a kid, just writing love songs, at home with on his father's piano. So 60 years later, he's got a new album. He's 76 years old. One of the songs for real is about him trying to get laid. Is that one "For You"?
Oh, yeah.
76 years old, and that's still a big deal. That means I'm going to be lonely at least another 15 years. You know?
Well, back to the Yardbirds, they turned into Led Zeppelin. They morphed into Led Zeppelin.
They sure
The
did.
band fell apart when Jimmy Page was there, and he decided to carry on the contract, do a handful of shows with some new guys. I mean, even before Led Zeppelin, the Yardbirds were doing
Ralph and
You
McCartney.
Shook Me and stuff like that.
Ralph and McCartney went on, started the original Renaissance, right? Yeah, you know music, man. That's
Even
for sure.
even Gisela, who does not know, and she's when it comes to rock music, does not know, and she said she really enjoyed Jeff Beck.
Oh God, he's
not
amazing.
knowing who.
That she should.
No, and not even knowing his past or nothing. So it's like she caught up to us in one concert. Like she had that, that respect for him, But for me, I loved Poison. I love Bret Michaels. He's a great showman. He's high energy.
They were impressive. I didn't expect much from them, and they were really impressive.
But Bret Michaels starts out up here, and he stays up there for the whole. He doesn't.
That's
How
incredible.
sometimes there's
That's
lulls.
incredible, yeah.
Another great show was the Joan Jett.
Oh yeah.
So she was amazing.
Hall of Famer.
She was very, very.
Her sound check was even cool.
The sound check was fantastic.
You know,
I mean,
I
I like those better than the show because it's
Yeah.
behind the scenes and.
I saw her open up for the Who a couple times.
We
last
had
couple years.
a great summer.
Yeah.
Joan Jett is very cool. She's got a
darn right,
documentary out. I'm working to get her on, but it's like pulling nails with Julie Rader. She's a great girl, and she gives us soup to nuts when it comes to shows. But when it comes to interviews, it's.
Well, I already got the nuts. Let's get some soup.
But I tell you what, Judas Priest, Foreigner, what a great show. Kelly Hansen, I mean, he picks up where Lou Graham left off, and then John Lappin, who's their marketing director, who gives us a lot of guests on our show. Foreigner's doing Foreigner Then and Now in November in Atlantic City, and Lou Graham will be on that tour. And
And let's not forget, Lou's been a guest on Animal House Radio.
Absolutely,
too.
and
Sure
as
has.
well as Mick Jones was
That's
too.
right.
And we will be invited to that, so I'm looking forward to seeing Lou Graham as
awesome
opposed
stuff.
to Kelly Hansen.
I liked, when I was a young man, I really liked Foreigner a lot. And I'm not knocking them. I just didn't think all these years later they'd still be that big. I really didn't.
You know what? They didn't lose a step when you listen
No,
to
they
their
have
music.
not. They have not at all.
To me, when I listen to a band now, and it sounds like I'm in my car in 1983 and I'm listening to a cassette, that speaks volumes to me. I don't know how you guys feel, but
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, and it's
There's
just,
something about the baby boomers, man. We live on. We really do, with our music especially.
But we had a great summer, and Judas Priest, Rob Halford, to hit those falsettos.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have one song. There's like 5 or 6 songs in that whole set that he's got to really, and he's just, and at this point, this is the second time we've met them, and it felt like we were hanging out with. And Steve said this. It felt like we were they're friends at this point. It's not just,
that's what's cool about it. It really is.
And they didn't say hi, how you doing? Like this with the photo, and then leave. They're like, hey, Rob Halford sat there. He was talking to us.
Richie Faulkner is a nice guy.
He's
the
great.
Guitar player, man, what a nice guy.
Yeah. I want to get him back on the show. I really enjoyed him. And Ian Hill, a little more reserved, but he's a great guy. Scott Travis.
We made Ian Hill laugh.
Yeah.
We opened him up a little bit.
You know what I forgot to do, Steve? I should have asked him if we could take a picture with his bike.
Yeah.
That would be cool,
Well, they were so accommodating. It was,
Yeah, it's like you don't want to,
Yeah.
What else you want? You want, like, our firstborn?
Yeah.
I know.
But now
Just don't touch me.
Now, Steve, you said something that, I don't know if it's true. When we, what?
Okay, I'll put you through in a couple seconds.
Wait, what happened?
I got Dennis Dunaway on.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, you said that, you can put him on.
Okay.
You said that you think that even though Judas Priest was touring with Ozzy, that they might come to the U.S. Rob Halford had that look on his face, like he was he was being a little tight-lipped about it.
Yeah, probably not really supposed to be talking about it yet.
Right.
But I feel that Ozzy may have a hard time following them.
Yeah, I mean, that was a tremendous show. All right, everybody, joining us now live on the show is a musical legend, singer-songwriter from the Alice Cooper Group. He's got a new book out. It's called Snakes, Guillotines, Electric Chairs, My Adventures in the Alice Cooper Group. Please welcome for the first time, Mr. Dennis Dunaway.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Dennis, how are you?
Good, great.
Excellent. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us tonight.
Oh, of course.
Good. So what you have? I have the hardcover right here of your book. What are we promoting? You got the new edition coming out?
The paperback is out now, and it came out nice. I really like the quality of the paper and everything, and it also has a new introduction by Alice that
nice.
It's so gushingly flattering that I told him that I read it, and now I'm not worthy of myself.
That's nice. That's very cool.
Yeah, that's so. What is this book, Dennis? Is this book like a tell-all, or is it just it chronicles certain periods of your time in the band?
Well, the book puts the reader in the station wagon with the band when we were driving around in the early days against all odds, and everybody was telling us that what we were doing was wrong, and it really does reflect the personalities that made up the chemistry of the group, and it's pretty much the high road I took. I didn't get down to the real nitty-gritty, even though I did, but that wasn't the purpose of the book.
Yeah.
The purpose of the book was just to show people why we did it, and that was because we were the typical high school kids with stars in our eyes, and we dug our way all the way up to the top of the rock pile.
Yeah. We were talking about the Yardbirds a few minutes ago. Yes. They were a big influence on you as young musicians, weren't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. We opened for the Yardbirds on September 4th, 1966, and we were so green behind the ears. We were just out of high school, but we had gotten a record of theirs, and we didn't know that much about the group, but we loved the music, so we learned a bunch of their songs, and when we opened for them, we played Yardbirds songs.
Oh, wow.
Dennis, this is Carlo Valerio. I have a question for you. I found this extremely interesting. I think you were doing an interview, and somebody had asked you what were your influences, and you cited actual artists themselves, like Michelangelo and stuff like that. I'm astounded by that answer.
Yeah, well, it was mostly Salvador Dali and the Surrealist, and also the pop artists, Andy Warhol and all of the happenings, and the, Lichtenstein and all those artists. Alice and I met in art class. I was 16 and he was 15, and we hit it off because he's the only guy in the class that had any clue or cared about, surreal art and all that. And I was a total artist, but when we started the band, we decided that we were going to incorporate art into the band.
Oh wow, that's amazing, Steve.
But the Yardbirds were a big, as far as me as a bass player. Paul Samwell Smith, the original bassist of the Yardbirds, was my biggest influence.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Who was on guitar that night? That'd be the Jeff Beck era, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that was Jeff Beck.
And what
the
did he
next time
think
I
of-
saw them, it was Jeff Beck on guitar, and Paul Samuel Smith wasn't in the band. Instead, there was some guy that I had never heard of named Jimmy Page playing bass.
That guy.
Oh wow.
That guy, yeah.
What did they think of you doing their material at their show?
You know, Alice and I have both talked to Jeff Beck about this in more recent years, and he said he remembers that. He said they were flying into Phoenix, Arizona. They had never even seen a cactus before, and they thought, oh, nobody's going to have a clue who they were. And then the opening band does their songs.
That's awesome.
Oh wow.
Got to ask you a quick question. How the heck did anybody think that Alice was Eddie Haskell from Leave It to Beaver?
Well, oh man, it was. You know, we used to, all the way back when we were the hot teen club house band in Phoenix, Arizona, VIP club. We packed about 800 kids. Sometimes we'd pack 1,000 in there, even though 800 was the legal capacity, twice a weekend, Friday and Saturday nights. And we wanted to keep everybody talking about us. So Alice was really good at making up stuff. And when we were in high school, we were in journalism class. I was the first guy at Cortez High School to take journalism because for some reason it was considered like a home ec. It was like an all-girls class. And I signed up, and then I took all the heat from all of the guys until they realized, wait a minute, he's in the class with all the babes.
All the girls are there, yeah?
Oh wow. So he was the smart one. Yeah.
So we would promote the band by making up stories, you know.
That's fantastic. I got to tell you, I was a freshman in high school when School's Out became the big hit. And this is is in Jersey.
Cool.
So we're on a bus on the last day of school. The school's over. Somebody's got their transistor radio tuned into a New York station. And out comes blasting School's Out. And we were like, whoa. It was like our anthem. It really was that summer.
Ah, great.
And then
That's good to hear.
when it comes to your time in the Alice Cooper group, how was the writing done? Was it one person did it, or was it a collaborative effort?
Well, I was the one that usually leaned toward the avant-garde and the dark side and all of that. Michael Bruce had more pop sensibilities. He knew how to write songs that people could relate to, and I didn't want to write songs that people could relate to.
Those are the ones I love.
And,
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah,
Black Jews.
it was pretty much Neil wrote great songs, you know, and Glenn never seemed to manage to get a writing credit, but he was very influential because he had this fiery personality and rebellious and edgy, and that's how he played. And so if we were trying to work out on a song, everything was collaboration, you know. Every single part of every song we would all hash over, and we would all, you know, be very passionate about what we thought would be best for that part of the song, and then we would vote. And whatever the majority was, then that's the way we would go. There was no looking back and no grudges or anything. So it was very collaborative, but Michael brought the most, you know, No More Mr. Nice Guy, Caught in a Dream, and
Be My Lover.
And a lot of those kind of songs were pure Michael, where Black Juju, you know, and I wrote Under My Wheels, and Neil had Hallowed Be My Name and some other great ones. Apple Bush was a great early one.
Yeah.
And also he wrote the single Teenage Lament.
Yeah, the whole anthology is amazing. My favorite song would be the Ballad of Dwight Fry. I really, because that's like it wasn't, you know, the radio hits are great, but I like the deeper stuff. And then that leads me to my next question. When you in a band like Alice Cooper and you guys have really tremendous successful radio hits like for example School's Out, and we've had Slash on the show, and I'm always interested into the artist's answer on this question. I mean, when you're if you're doing a show 5 nights a week for 20 years, do you like Slash said verbatim, you know, Sweet Child of Mine is our anthem. The people want to hear it. He says, but I literally hate this friggin' song, but it's not what I like, it's what the people like, so I have to play it. Did you ever get to that point with some of the music?
You know, I never have. I've played Schools Out a bazillion times, and any of the Alice Cooper songs, you know, I still really enjoy them. And, you know, there's, you know, the Alice Cooper group, for one thing, as far as stage show, we were willing to go out on a limb. We were very experimental, and we would just throw something new into the act and just all of a sudden go off on an improvisational, you know, pioneering jog.
Right.
And the thing is that kept sometimes some of them failed and some of them worked, but we did so many of them that if one failed, we'd just play Schools Out, and that was our safety net.
That was like a fallback, yeah.
Well, you know the cool thing, Dennis? No matter what any band in the history of tomorrow does, it's already been done by the Alice Cooper Group.
Well, you know, we had a lot of influences. We came, you know, on the tail of the British invasion, which was our education. And, you know, when we were there out, you know, there was The Who, and there was Hendrix, and there was Led Zeppelin, and the Stones were going, and still the Beatles had made such a gigantic influence. You know, we did a show with John Lennon up in Toronto, which Alice threw the chicken out in the audience. But
was that live piece?
That was Toronto Music Festival.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I thought it was live.
That was the Rock and Roll Revival at Varsity Stadium in Toronto.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in 1969.
Who brought the chicken?
We did our show, and then we also backed up the great Gene Vincent.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So who brought the chicken? Did you bring the chicken?
We had 2 chickens. There was a guy in Detroit that would get the chickens for us. Now, Glenn Buxton used to do this thing where he'd hammer on the neck of his guitar, and it reminded me of chickens clucking. So I said, well, you know, we found this guy, Larry, that could get chickens. And so the roadies would be behind the amps, and all of a sudden these chickens would be standing on Glenn's amp when he played that part. And it worked out way better than we ever imagined, because we would be rolling tires across the stage and throwing garbage cans and everything, and these chickens would be oblivious to it, like nothing was going on. And then we all swore that if anybody asked about the chickens, we go, "What chickens?"
That is awesome.
If all you needed was clucking noises, I would have set my mother-in-law and her sister.
Dennis, let me ask you: do you think that the fact that you're going out on a limb and the experimentation is what set you apart and made America fall in love with the group?
Well, yeah, but I mean, there were years of it didn't look like anybody was falling in love with us. we had critics lined up in the parking lot ready to punch us out, you know?
Yeah, I hear you.
I got to tell you, I understand exactly what you were saying. I was thinking about it right before Carlo asked. It always, as big as Alice Cooper is, and they were always major to me, it always seemed like there was another group that had the spotlight at the time rather than Alice Cooper. I never understood that, but it always seemed like that's the way it worked out. You mentioned yourself all the British influences when you guys were starting out, so they were getting all the spotlight, and whoever was getting it in the 70s, you know what I mean? But you guys were always there. You were the constant.
Well, our image was edgy, and television stations didn't want to touch us with a 10-foot pole. You know, even though we had the visual goods, we were perfect for television or whatever. But but we were too. The image was too sinister.
Yeah.
Well, you know, as far as I'm concerned, or the world is concerned, by 1973, you were pretty much the biggest, at least the biggest American band in the world. What was it, you, Led Zeppelin, and the Stones, maybe?
Well, actually, we were on the cover of Forbes magazine as the highest-grossing touring band of '73 over the Stones and Zeppelin.
Nice.
So, yeah, we were big, but we were so busy that we couldn't realize that we were big.
Yeah.
And also, Billion Dollar Babies went to #1 simultaneously in England and America.
That's right.
Because everybody knows Led Zeppelin for the Starship, the plane. But you guys, you had the plane.
You know, that plane belonged to Bobby Sherman. Mm-hmm. And he got it for his tours, and then they're like, well, we can't pay to park this plane anywhere. Let's rent it out to bands. So a lot of different bands had that plane, but because Bob Gruen took that famous, iconic picture of Zeppelin standing in front of it, you know. You know, and we had the same plane, only it said Alice Cooper instead of Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, I love the $sign you guys put on the tail fin.
Yeah, I did too. You mentioned Bobby Sherman. Are you talking that Bobby Sherman? Julie, 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 do you love me?
That's the one.
Get out of here,
wow.
man.
Yeah.
The Allman Brothers had the plane before us.
Yeah.
And it's funny how we spent so many years, you know, all piled into a station wagon together with the electric chair tied on the top and all that kind of stuff. And then now we're big, and now we've got our own plane. And the Allman Brothers got rained out, and they had to keep the plane 2 extra days.
Yeah.
And we were complaining that we had to take commercial flights for those 2 days.
That's awesome.
Hey,
We were billion-dollar babies by then. You
Indeed.
played the role.
Dennis, out of all the songs that you've sang, is there a personal favorite for you over the years that really?
Oh my God, there's so many of them. That's like pick your favorite child, you know.
Yeah.
I love Halo of Flies. I love. Oh man, I really do. I like all of them. I really enjoy playing them. Caught in a Dream always is uplifting.
One of my early
I'll say that one.
favorites. Yeah, that's Caught in a Dream. I love the lyric, and it's pre-fame, really. It was looking forward, and it all came true.
Yeah, well, Love It to Death album, we had 2 strikes against us. Both our first 2 albums barely made the charts. If Pretty's For You hadn't have made it to 110 on the charts, that may have been the end of us. And then Easy Action didn't set the world on fire either. So when we went in the studio with Bob Ezrin, even though we knew the songs were much stronger, we still weren't going to be popping any champagne because we thought we were going to set the world on fire with our first 2. So you know, Caught in a Dream was really sums up what we were thinking. We were caught in a dream. We were all caught in this visual goal that we were driven to achieve, and we were scraping rock bottom when Ezrin saw us in New York City.
Well, you know, I seem to remember with Love It to Death, as you said, that was almost the end. But when it came out with I'm 18, became a hit, all of a sudden record companies were fighting over it. Didn't you have like 18 different versions of that album through different distributors, and the covers were slightly different and altered?
Well, there was a lot of, you know, we were signed to Bizarre Records, and then that turned into Reprise, which turned out to be a subsidiary of Warner's. And Warner's, we went with Warner's, and they kind of led us to believe they'd take care of any lawsuits or anything. And next thing you know, everything was tied up in litigation, and the albums kept changing labels, but it was all in that same family.
Yeah.
Dennis, I have a question from one of our listeners online. His name is Billy Milko, and he was asking about the plane that you were just talking about. He wants to know how much weed did the Allmans leave on the plane?
I was thinking that too. Be honest
Yeah,
with
I'm
you.
sure. You know, there was a room in the back on the plane that had all really deep white shag carpet, and it was like a white bedroom with a fireplace, and that's where all of the the groupie action happened. And I'm sure there was some weed down in that shag carpet.
Among other things.
I know they say what happens on the tour bus stays on the tour bus, but for the benefit of our...
You know why? Because nobody can remember later.
Good point.
For the benefit of our servicemen and women, give us one story that you've never told before.
Oh my God!
Come on!
No, I can't tell that one.
Come on, you and I aren't movie stars.
I can tell that one.
We'll release you from any...
I don't know about that one either.
That's great.
Well, in the early days, okay, I got one. We played in Oregon. I was born in Oregon, but this was some little club on the coast, and we were doing a string of gigs, and definitely road weary. But we show up at this club, and to find out that the owner says we're only allowed to do 4 songs. We're like, 4 songs? We're not even warmed up in 4 songs. But he saw what we looked like, and he's like, didn't want us to play at all, but finally he said 4 songs. So we gave him, oh man, we nailed the place to the wall, and we did the feathers and everything. It was just an explosion. And I know we were probably in the next state before all those feathers landed.
Oh, that's too funny.
So you opened up with your finale, huh?
We opened up with something. We did 4 songs, but I'm sure every band after us knew that we had been there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I got to work this past weekend with a friend of yours. He's a director. His name is Brian Chakotay, and we had
Brian told me about you.
Yeah, we had a great. I had a great time working. It was my first time meeting him and working with him, and he says you're working on a video now too, right?
We're doing a video. It's a song that I wrote called Cold, Cold Coffin. And we're going to do I'm calling it a rock cinema because it's not, it's a music video because it's a movie that's the length of the song, but it's not promoting, there's not going to be any musicians in it.
Uh-huh.
There's me and Calico Cooper, Alice's daughter, is going to star in it.
Wow.
And we're going to film it at a castle, and it's going to involve a glass coffin, and it's going to be spooky, and we are so excited about it because everybody, including Brian's the director, we've got this whole team, and the chemistry, it's just so exciting and so perfect. Everybody's on the same page, and
I'm so
we will be
jealous.
shooting it in October, and it should be out. We're going to try to have it out by Halloween. If not, it'll be a week or 2 after that.
Where are you shooting it at?
I can't tell you that.
But it's a castle, though. You're using a castle.
I don't want a bunch of Alice Cooper fans in spider makeup coming out of the bushes with bags full of albums to sign.
Yeah, that's a good
I
point.
understand. I would love to. Oh man, that sounds like a fun time.
Yeah, we're just talking about the Animal House radio team coming out with albums and stuff to be signed. Forget about everything else. You know.
The hell with the fans.
Yeah. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I sign a lot of albums, and I'm happy to. I love to meet fans, but we've got a lot of scenes to shoot in 2 days, and we can't have any distractions.
Oh, I don't blame you. I really, and I want to thank you for your generosity. He's agreed to give away 3 of his books, and I'm looking forward to that. Let me ask you a question, Dennis. For me as a fan, how do I get? Do you have like signed copies that I can buy? I definitely got to get one.
Well, actually, there's 3 more days of the Kickstarter campaign that's funding this film, and you can get a signed copy through that. But also, since we're going to do a book giveaway, when I have I'm not sure how I could sign it though, because they'll be coming directly from our distributor. Mm-hmm. We'll work it out.
Yeah, well, like whatever. If you happen to come across one or able to do it, I would really appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, and now, so you're gonna hopefully have the video done by Halloween, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I would love to get you back on when that's ready to go, and because I want to blow it up big for you guys.
Ah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Now, back to the book, because I want to give you a lot of time on that. For people who know of Alice Cooper, but they're not like diehard fan like Mr. Keller here, who eats, sleeps, and drinks Alice Cooper, what can they expect from that book? If it's just a regular, oh, I know Alice Cooper, he's great, but what can they expect from this book? And what do you hope to? Because I tell you why I asked this, because, and I say this with a lot of our musicians that we have on our show. And how over the years the generations have transcended. Like if you were playing in '74, you have one generation you're playing to. Now, if you were to go on tour, you got 5 generations sitting in front of you.
Yeah, well, thank God for School's Out. We have kids that bring their parents to the concerts sometimes.
Oh yeah.
The book, usually, especially with the first-time author, which I was. The book company wants to assign a co-writer. Well, I said the one of the book companies that I ended up going with a different one. But they assigned this young kid, and I'm thinking, I'm going to be explaining the 60s to this guy instead of... So I told them, I want to pick my co-writer, and I picked Chris Hoddenfield, who was a writer for Rolling Stone for a dozen years back. He's the one that wrote when Alice Cooper were on the cover of Rolling Stone.
I read that.
The photograph of Alice's distorted face with the snake wrapped around it, which the Rolling Stone staff deemed was the ugliest cover they ever had. But Chris had gone on the road with me. Now, that's part of what the book contains is how can anybody realize how shocking we were at the time, because it's pretty tame by today's standards.
Oh, right.
You know, there wasn't death metal and all that back then. There were sensors breathing down our neck every inch of the way.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
like the Beatles Butcher cover got banned, you know, and stuff like that. So, so basically, it's also got an education for somebody that wasn't around in the 60s and early 70s about the scene and the thinking and all the things that were going on then. So that's very important for setting up, you know, what we did, because we would go right up to the line of censorship, and then we'd stick our toe across every time and kept inching our way forward. But if we went too far across the line, then your album wouldn't be, you know, allowed to be sold in Woolworths or whatever.
Right.
So, so we have a lot of that. It tells you what was going on in the 60s in different cities, because different cities were different. Detroit was different than Hollywood and all that. New York was different. So, so there's a good combination of that, but mostly it's about these 5 different personalities that were so unlikely to all agree on this crazy idea enough to go without food to make it happen, you know, and
Right.
go against, you know, we started playing in Phoenix, Arizona, and New Mexico and stuff, and we get chased out of town with the pickups with the rifles in the racks and all that.
Yeah.
So we were all really dedicated, and to me, finding the right chemistry in a band like that is so rare. It only takes one wrong person to upset the chemistry. And, you know, so I really try to capture everybody's personality and get it across what they were about and how this all worked together.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Well, Alice Cooper was the perfect 5 personalities. I mean, it just, the musicianship, the relationship with you and Neil on drums, I mean, it's unparalleled. It's never been matched, in my opinion, to this day.
Well, Alice and Glenn and I went to high school together. You know, we were very young when we became friends, and Neil went to Camelback High. I could practically throw a stone and hit that, and Michael went to North High. I could throw a stone and hit that. So we all went to high school at the same time in the same town, and so when we wrote Schools Out, we didn't even have to think about it. You know, it wasn't like, oh, I went to school in some other state and explaining how that was different. No, there was none of that. In fact, it was interesting. The Tubes also. All the guys that were in the Tubes were there going to high school at the same time too. One thing about Phoenix, Arizona back then is it really was an oasis. We were isolated. You know, television went off at 10 o'clock at night, and you were lucky to see a couple of decent shows a week. So there was not much else to do but get a band together and go and rehearse a lot, you know. So that's what we did. And we just did this tour in England with Alice in November. The toured 5 shows in the UK, including Wembley, 14,000 people. And the opening band was Tubes. So there were 8 guys that went to high school in Phoenix, Arizona in 64 and 65 graduated, played at Wembley just last November.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Oh, wow.
And not one of you is from Winslow, Arizona.
Yeah, right.
No, but been through there plenty.
Dennis, I have a.
I've been through so many times. You knew where to slow down, where the cop was waiting.
Dennis, I have a question for you that I saw in another interview that you did. You became the bass player because the rest of the band took up the. That's all that was left.
That's exactly right. Alice and I started a band before we even knew what we were going to do in it. We got Glenn Buxton because he actually played guitar. And our first gig, we pretended we were the Beatles, and we called ourselves the Earwigs, and we wore Beatle wigs. And we said we were from Cesspool, England. And we did Beatles songs, but we changed the lyrics to be sports-oriented because we played at the Letterman's Club talent show. And so we did this. The Beatles had just hit big, and they had like the top 10 singles were all Beatles songs in Phoenix at the time. And so everybody got a big laugh out of it. But, man, we were on stage, and we got the bug right away. You know, okay, this has got to be a real band. Well, you know, it's kind of, I think, interesting that a bass player's personality is usually, you know, somebody that's a little bit more, your part in the band is kind of like more of a follower, generally, you know.
Yeah.
So it kind of fit that, you know, everybody chose what they were going to do, and what was left, bass. Okay, well, I'll get a bass.
Oh, wow. But that wouldn't have been your first choice?
Well, it was my first choice, but I was the last to choose.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're lucky that you played the bass.
I mean, it didn't really matter to me. All I cared about is we're going to have a rock band that has all these surrealistic, artistic ideas incorporated in it. And, you know, Glenn already played guitar, so he could probably have taught me how to play guitar, but basically I would go over to Glenn's house and sit down, and he'd say, okay, that's a G note, that's an A note, and then we would put on a Stones album or a Bob Dylan album, and then we would pick out the patterns, and he would help me. And then once I learned how to do blues patterns, mostly from Bill Wyman of the Stones, then, you know, we were always blues-rooted. Even when you listen to some of the complex Alice Cooper compositions, it's basically started with a blues-rooted pattern, and then it gets distorted and pushed to the limits to be something else. And that's what I learned from Paul Samwell Smith. You know, everybody talks about the guitar players in the Yardbirds, but he was every bit as progressive as they were.
Yeah, sure was.
And it wasn't like I copied his patterns. I mean, we played Yardbird songs, but it was really just that concept of hearing somebody play blues songs where the bass didn't do what a bass normally does.
Mm-hmm.
He would take it somewhere really interesting, and that taught me, hey, I don't have to just stick to the root note and follow the chords like everybody else. I can get, you know, I can go wherever I want. So that's what I learned from him.
You make it sound so easy, but believe me, we all know it's not that easy at all.
And Dennis, I really got to tell you, it was an honor to talk to you tonight, and I want you to know you have an open door anytime you want to come on. Consider yourself a friend of the show. And I definitely want you to keep in touch with us and let us know about the video, because I'm anxiously want to see that. And anything you have to promote or support, you let me know. Like I said, you have carte blanche anytime.
Okay. Well, I should jump in and say, you know, I have another band with Joe and Albert Bouchard of Blue Oyster Cult. We're called Blue Coupe, and we're doing another album now.
I have it in my hand right now. It's a great album. Million Miles More.
Oh, wow.
Million Miles More. Okay, and you guys have my contact information, so we'll hook up so that we can get the books to you.
Absolutely. And Dennis, can you do us a quick favor before we let you go?
Station ID?
Absolutely. Wow, he said he's sharp.
Can't even think of a word to rhyme.
Absolutely. Basically, you'll introduce yourself and say you're listening to the Animal House radio show on the Hamilton Radio Network.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, you go.
Hi, this is Dennis Dunaway of the Alice Cooper Group. You're listening to the Animal House Radio Show of Hamilton.
Yeah.
Did I miss a word, didn't I?
Hamilton
What was
Radio.
the end of that?
Just say,
Huh?
just right now say Hamilton Radio Network, and the beauty of editing.
Okay. Hamilton Radio Network.
Perfect.
Thank
There
you,
you
brother.
go. Dennis Dunaway, thank you
Thanks,
so
Dennis.
much.
Awesome interview, my brother.
We love you.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
gonna tell Brian that it went great.
Oh,
which it
absolutely.
did.
And
you.
like I said, keep us up to date. And I want to encourage all our servicemen and women and all our listeners, please go on Amazon and pick up this book. It's Snakes, Guillotines, Electric Chairs, My Adventures in the Alice Cooper Group by Dennis Dunaway. Dennis, God bless, and thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, my brother.
Good night.
Take care. That was good, you know. I mean,
That's an
thank you
interview we
because
can-
you're the brains, you know your stuff. That's why I keep you around, you know.
I appreciate that. It's
No.
nice to be kept.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, Dunaway made it easy, too.
Oh, yeah,
He
he's a
made
great.
it
He's
so easy for us.
a little bit of experience there.
Yeah.
Tim, you want to do your thing?
Hey, let's do our thing here.
All right, it's time for the Way the F Out There news with Mr. Tim Eli.
I'm not even putting on glasses for this one. This is so freaking way out. Hey, it's Friday the 13th in Land O'Lakes, Florida. A man was arrested for deliberately menacing his neighbor with a chainsaw during an argument over a shrub on September 4th. According to the sheriff's office, around 6:34 p.m., deputies responded to a call about an ongoing dispute between neighbors. The ongoing issue was between the neighbors about shrubs that are growing between the property lines. The alleged suspect, Gregory Landacre, was using a chainsaw to cut the shrub down and was dragging the branches for disposal when he was approached by his neighbor, Jeffrey Zalaki, who claimed that he was cutting shrubs that were on his property. Landacre dismissed the accusation and resumed cutting the branches with the chainsaw. Zalaki then ran into his house to phone the police, and he returned outside the house and found Landacre standing on his front lawn wearing a hockey mask and revving the chainsaw repeatedly while laughing sinisterly. Zalaki, fearing for his life, began to run, and Landacre followed right behind him, menacing him with the chainsaw around the property as Zalaki was screaming for help. The victim was struck by the blade, causing a deep laceration to his left hand. Police soon arrived and were able to subdue Landacre without incident. Zalaki was taken to Tampa General Hospital for surgery. Zalaki's tendons were cut in his arm, and Landacre was arrested for aggravated battery and simple battery and taken to the Land O'Lakes Detention Center pending an initial court appearance.
I wonder if they use Land O'Lakes butter.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, Land of Aches. How is it? Now, this guy, he actually attacked a guy. Even if it was an accident, he attacked him with a chainsaw.
You want to know
How
something?
is it that's only aggravated battery? It's simple battery.
I don't know. Maybe they knew the police. You know what?
That should be
funny?
like Supreme Court justice, right?
You want to laugh? Some of the best stories we get, it's always Florida.
Yeah, of course it
I
is.
don't know what the hell's going on
It's
down
the
Bunch
heat
of
down there.
wackadoodles,
The
yeah.
heat and the lack of education, probably.
All right, I
between
got a
the two.
couple of things I got to mention. I know you got a jet, right, Steve?
Yeah, I got a tip on where Jim Morrison is. I want to see if I can get him to speak.
That would be cool.
Yeah, he hasn't been visible lately, so
There you go.
give him
Tell
a higher profile.
Just keep your eye on the road.
Tell Mr.
That's it.
Risen I said hello.
I shall.
Steve Keller, thank you for stopping in. Always a pleasure to see you. That you come once every couple of months because you're too good for us. But I appreciate
That's
it.
more than I come.
I always break his balls. That's my wingman.
I plan on stopping in 2 weeks. You know,
with Franco the no show.
yes, with Franco the no show.
Okay,
He's
he's a good guy.
He's a good guy. But no, guys, it's been a pleasure. It's been a fun episode.
Yes, and don't get no points tonight because you know that company of yours gives you points if you're late.
Yeah. Well, you know, Jimmy, we're gonna make some points with him.
There you go. But,
Hey, take it easy, guys.
Thank you very much, Killer Keller.
Good job.
All right, I got a couple. We got a few more minutes left, and we got a couple of things I got to mention. This weekend at the Showboat in Atlantic City, NJ HorrorCon, and there's still plenty of tickets left. You can get them at the door. It's a great Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Some of your favorite celebrities are going to be there, especially, and not just horror movies. You got iconic people like Mr. Belding, Dennis Haskins from Saved by the Bell, Elvira, Dee Snider, the cast of The Ash vs. the Evil Dead, Ted Raimi, Dana DiLorenzo. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I definitely want you guys to check it out. It's New Jersey, spelled out, horrorcon.com. Ryan Bruce and Scott Weber and Robert Bruce, they put on a really, really great show. Every year it gets better and better. So go out there and show your love for them. And you know what? You can spend the weekend in Atlantic City, get something to eat at the Showboat, hit the tables, walk around on the boardwalk because we're supposed to have great weather this weekend. Secondly, Friday, September 28th at the Vibe Tap and Grill, John Peasy and myself will be at the Vibe Grill for a comedy night. It's going to be a great show. So I want you all to definitely come out and check that out. If you want tickets for that, they're offering a special discount if you call tonight and mention my name, 732-678-6975, and tell them you heard it on Animal House Radio and you want tickets for the 29th at Vibe Tap and Grill. There will be a DJ afterwards, so you can hang out and dance, and it's just a total night out. And the 29th of September, which is Saturday, I will be at the City Lights.
City Streets.
City Streets. Why do I always say City Lights?
You're not the only one. Numerous people do that.
City Streets in East Windsor.
East Windsor, Route
East
130.
Windsor. I will be headlining along with Randy Lupo and Dave Hodges on the show.
Dave Hodges on the show.
Will you be doing some time this
I
year?
am the Eggman, so yes, I will be hosting the show.
And how much are the tickets, Mr.
No, free cover, man. No cover at all, in fact.
Oh, wow, free show.
Free show, and it's a major show, in fact. This is a great lineup. Not to mention the fact we're going to have a DJ afterwards, too. The show is at 9. Figure DJ at 10:30, 11 o'clock. People hang out, dance, and moving forward, please, if you want to hear my voice in person, invite me to any local event. Okay?
Yes, absolutely.
I am the Eggman. Don Pardo got out of the business when he heard my voice.
No, you should take over for that guy that used to do Don LaFontaine.
Yeah, right? Oh, yeah, I forgot about him. You're right.
He died, too, but he had a great voice. Yeah. Meanwhile, back at the farm.
Yeah, that's right.
I can only dream to have Tim's voice. I wish, but...
there's a couple of people that was a nightmare when they heard it, trust me.
Yeah, City Streets, and that's September 29th with myself,
Saturday
Randy
night.
Lupo,
Free
Dave
show.
Hodge. Free show.
Free show.
And I've been in that room before. It's a cool little room. It's very intimate, which is not a big, roomy, convention hall. It's going to be fun, and it's always a good time there.
For what it's worth, it's an incredible wait staff. They are wonderful people. A friend of mine from junior high school owns the place, Amy Hutter Quigley. We go back to 7th grade together, so it's a wonderful establishment in Route 130. I think it's the Royal Crown Plaza or Royal Plaza. Strip Mall on Route 130 southbound, East Windsor, New Jersey, right by Dutch Neck Road. Be there. Carlo, the Wild Thing Valerio headlining. That's worth it by itself.
Oh, wow. Hey, Gene, do me a favor.
What do you need?
Here, I'm going to give you this, okay?
Another number?
Yeah.
1.
I'm not gonna,
17.
I'm not going to tell it to you over the phone, but let's try to get him on the phone.
Hey.
I got this number here. Right there. See that? You can read that?
John P.
Yeah. I don't want to read his number. That's I respect his privacy. But he will be. I've worked with John several times. He's
Good.
a funny guy. He's a tremendous talent, a ventriloquist, and he's always a pleasure to work with. And I'm always grateful for you for the 29th, and you always think of me, and I always try to think
my
of
buddy,
you.
Man.
Especially when I'm near a set of drapes, I always think of Timmy.
I started comedy for real at this point in my life about 5.5 years ago, and Carlo and I became friends on the circuit.
Instant, we were like, just how sometimes you meet somebody and you just click with somebody. And I'm sorry, I apologize. We have an in-studio guest. He's hanging out with us, Sal Angeletti, who also has a show here. It's called The Taker. Taker 2 Takes Over, which is also shown here on Hamilton Radio. It's a great show, and he has a lot of great guests, too. And he's a funny guy, Sal. He's very supportive of our show, and likewise we are of his. And I'm glad he's here, and Jerry Petito doesn't have an 18th show, so I'm glad to see you here, Sal.
Look at that glare screen.
Look at Gene.
Is that the creature from Alien?
Gene's like, he almost got out of here without insulting anybody, but he couldn't resist.
No, and believe me, Jerry's a friend of ours. She knows it's not an insult.
I break Jerry's ball. She knows.
Yeah, she knows. And she's a sweet. I haven't seen her in months. And
you got
really
Gene
miss
that's
her.
like, you can't do that, buddy. Then you got Ruben. Carlo, listen. Hey, this is Ruben. You can't really do that, okay? He sounds like Beavis and Butthead, Ruben, when he gets on the phone. He's like, oh, yeah, Carlo. He stalked Christopher Lloyd at the movie the film festival. He saw him in the film. Mr. Lloyd, my name is Ruben. I'm with Iron Horse Films.
Muddy.
I'm a big fan of yours, and if you need me to wipe your ass for you, I'll be happy to do it.
That's it. That's the laugh. I'm not kidding.
I couldn't. Then you got Monk. He's like, yo, what's up? You bring any food with you today, man? What's up, man? You don't bring no food. I ain't coming in here. You ain't bringing no food here. You know what? That son of a bitch, Monk, owes me a Snapple. He was thirsty one night. I gave him a Snapple. I says, no, you got to replace it. He goes, don't worry, I got you. I got you. Don't worry about it. He sit here. He's supposed to be the engineer. I love Monk. I break his balls.
He's good, though. Yeah,
he sits here. He's supposed to be the engineer, and he's facing the opposite way on the Mac computer watching Power, like the missed episodes of Power. So, but I love Monk. I always break his
This
jaws.
is a good studio when it's a good station, folks, and that's why we're having fun doing this.
So, what did you think of our interviews tonight? I thought Tobin Bell was great. A little laid back.
I respect him I'm even more so than ever now that I've had a chance to even say hi to him. But he's very dry and very serious. He comes off to me, which is okay. I mean, let's face it. Look at the roles he plays. I mean, that's a question I should have thought of asking. How much of that saps his soul at all?
Yeah.
Sometimes doing such evil things, But no, it's all good. But
no,
is protected.
Oh, another guest in the studio. Ladies and gentlemen, Tokyo Rose.
All right. I tried.
You sure you didn't give him Helen Keller's number? Because she doesn't answer either. No, but hey, Tobin Bell. I mean, that's my God. Who else has played the same character in a major series?
Well,
of
like
movies?
I said, I thought that was a great move. I think the continuity is the key, especially with horror, because
it is.
They hold it to they hold people to filmmakers to a higher standard. It's not like a romantic comedy where they want to be wowed, and I think that's the hardest genre to continually please audiences, because it's like, all right, what have you done for me?
You're exactly right, but because it is a genre, the audience will notice the nuances, the different nuances. If it's different actors playing the same character, they will. So that's all the more reason I think this is a franchise that has taken off, because again, sometimes different writers, different producers, directors. Right. This guy Tobin, he was awesome. I mean, he was awesome. It's stuff I learned from him.
I want to thank Kate Edwards again for making that possible.
Oh God, thank you so much.
Looking forward to the Jamie Lee Curtis interview, and Steve Perry would be early October. We had to postpone that because he's got a new album out called Traces, and I think he's in London right now. So they said, listen, we apologize, but it's definite. They're very high on doing this. So
we want him.
Gene, how close are you to getting Tommy Shaw?
Well, like I said, he's in my live feeds all the time.
Yeah, so you got to. I definitely want him.
Oh, no, I don't want to go through the agents.
What do the Asians have to do with it?
The agents.
Oh, agents.
Yeah.
Agents. Oh.
No, his management company said they would do it, but they told me to wait till after August 1st, which it clearly is. And you know how it is. They're slow to get back to you. But, so.
Tommy Shaw, ladies and gentlemen, Styx and damn Yankees.
Gene, are you
That's
going
quite
to
a resume.
HorrorCon this weekend with the kids? No, you go to the Chiller in October? Well, Bernie Capello will be there with the people from Lofa. And I know Sandy's gonna go. I just want.
I want to go there too.
I just want to go and get this one's autograph, and then that's it. I really can't stand here in line too long, because I gotta go. There's a lot of people that haven't returned books. I gotta get back to the library. Sandy, who are you hoping to go and see this time out?
Barbara Eden.
Oh gosh,
Barbara,
yeah.
she's like 99.
Barbara Feldon's there too.
Yeah.
Get smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see him because he produced for people I like and stuff. And the guy that was the captain on the Love Boat.
Oh, Gavin McLeod.
Oh, Gavin McLeod, right?
It's going to be him, Jill Whelan, Bernie Capel, and Ted Lange. Yeah, so.
Not to mention Good Times, guys.
Yeah, I want to see the cast.
You know what? I worked with Jimmy Walker. He's on my shit list, Jimmy Walker.
Gino, mention Good Times. Is John Amos going to be a part of it?
No, he's not.
To me, he's like one of my favorite
we've
actors.
had him on the show,
yeah,
too.
No,
Great interview.
Yeah, John Amos, yeah.
Yeah, put him up,
please,
put him up.
Please, thank you.
Yeah, I think. John?
Hold on, here it is.
John?
Hey now.
Hey, how are you? All right, everybody, it is 20 after 10. We have about 10 minutes left of the show, and joining us now on the show is an iconic comedian who I've worked with for several times over the years, and there's no greater ventriloquist on the planet and all-around comedian. Please welcome for the first time on this show, Mr. John Peasy.
Hey now,
John, how are you?
I'm so sorry. I was supposed to call in a little bit earlier, and I forgotten. And then all of a sudden, I saw your message. Like, oh no, you could call me Johnny Come Lately.
That veal parmesan must have been really good that you were eating that you couldn't call.
Actually, not. I was actually, you would not believe what I was doing. you would. As a matter of fact, if I would give you $1 million if you could actually guess what I was doing. It's so bizarre and so far-fetched. It's worth that much money.
You were at a beauty pageant.
No, but it's that ridiculous. Yes. How you doing, Carlo?
I'm doing good. How's Dakota?
Oh, very good. Excellent day.
Yes.
And who's there with you?
Right now it's just me and Tim Eli, and my girl Gisela is home. She's a little under the weather tonight. And usually Veneer is my co-host, but his daughter got a flat tire, and he had to go,
He had to veneer off the highway.
Yeah. Very funny. Very funny. Actually, Veneer, I remember meeting his daughters when they were they're twins. I remember meeting them when they were like 7 or 8 years old. I remember doing like a small show for them at his home. And his lovely wife. Nice, great people.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
Paul and me we've gotten closer over the years, and we work a lot together. And he's just like you, John, you can see 50 times, and it's still, you know what I'm saying? As somebody who's in the business, it doesn't get tiring for me because it's fun every time. Because with Paul and you, it may be the same act, but there's never the same show twice, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is, because it's always interactively live. You never know what you're going to hit in front of you. It's kind of weird.
Exactly.
But I do actually create a lot of new materials. As a matter of fact, I got a couple of new things I'm working on now that are in the show, and I have another new bit that took, I don't know, 6 months of an electronics guy to build and a ton of money and all that. And I can't wait to try it out. I really can't wait, but it's not going to be ready, I guess, until in a couple more weeks.
Oh.
But so I'm always constantly creating new stuff, but not everything works. Sometimes it fails.
Right. Well, I remember when you first started doing, I forgot the technology that you called it, that you debuted it on, I don't know if you debuted it on America's Got Talent, but I know you did it at My Roast, and it was just brilliant. I forgot what you call that.
I did debut it on America's Got Talent. That was the first time that I actually kind of did it publicly, yeah. Because I was just working on, I created the app. It took a year to create the app.
Right. What is that called now, that whole, I'm sorry.
That app was called the virtualventriloquist.net. It was virtual ventriloquist.
Right,
It was an application to take your face and animate it remote controlly, and I can make you talk, even though, by the way, at that time it was big technology because it was impossible to do easily in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's become much more easily
just a few more
because the technology keeps growing exponentially.
I'm always excited to see what you got coming up. I just love, you know what, John? I love the whole puppets thing, but I just love the crowd work that you do with people and the puppets and.
I love crowd work. I grew up thinking that was the funniest thing. Yeah. I love interacting with people because it's so live and in the moment, real. Whereas when you do just a canned act, it's just a canned act, but the interaction is in the moment.
Yeah.
It's like walking on a wire or boxing. It's you could get hit, you could get knocked down, and you could get stand up. It's just one of those in the moment things.
That's a good way to put it.
It's the beauty of comedy. It's one of the beautiful things of comedy that is not really appreciated as much as material. Like if you get hired to go on a Tonight Show or Kimmel or something, they don't want you working the crowd. They want you standing there in front of the mic and just doing a 7-minute set.
Right.
It's not as appreciated as an art, and it is actually an art. And there's not a lot of people that do it really well. John Mulrooney is one of the greatest crowd workers to me.
Oh, yeah. I've seen a lot of people over the years, and it just amazes me. Unfortunately, though, I think that a lot of people, I don't know, and maybe I'm wrong, John, and this is just one man's opinion. It doesn't seem like people are coming out to comedy shows like they were. Like in the late 80s, you had to turn people away at the door. I guess it's because like with any field, like with acting, it's oversaturated. And
I don't know if it's the other side. I think it's the technology has changed everything now, because everyone's on YouTube. I mean, if you're a millennial, you don't watch television. You watch YouTube on your phone all day. You watch everything on your phone. The phone, the smartphone has changed the world. Everything's changing. And I got to tell you, if I could, I mean, I didn't start comedy until late 80s, almost 90s. So I really didn't have a beat on that at the time. But I went to a comedy club, and in the 90s, it was moving. I was doing one-nighters every night in Connecticut, like every night, like 5 nights a week. It was a one-nighter at a place, and I cut my teeth there.
Right.
It was great. It was a great time.
Were those the
really great time.
Were those the King Broder days?
Yeah. Well, that was John Schuler. John Schuler ruled Connecticut in the 90s.
Yeah.
And the money was really poor.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of tolls, gas, and time. 3 hours there, 3 hours back, and a couple, and you were opening up, in TGIFs and bars and restaurants. And But I got to tell you, it was great. It was hilarious. It was fun.
Betty's Fireside in
people
Denville.
Working hard. Betty's Fireside. That was the first comedy gig I ever did.
Oh my God! I had to stand up on the bar and do a set. It was so funny. It was like a straight out of the movie Roadhouse. That's how bad it was.
Yeah, it's like a strip club. It looked like a strip club. There's a pole there. On the stage. I remember everybody making fun of the pole. The first comedy gig I ever did, I remember the first 2 gigs I did. It was Phil Selman up at a place called Confetti's.
Oh, wow.
It was way up there, like Poughkeepsie or something.
Right.
And the other one was Betty's Fireside in
Denville, yeah.
Denville.
That's
funny. And the night I got there, I mean, I was just doing magic shows and stuff. I didn't know anything about anything. And I went in there the first night, and I got in there, and it was 3 comedians, and one of them was Rich Voss, who was the closer.
Right.
And Gary Ewing.
Oh, wow.
And myself. So I walked in, and the first thing I said, "Hey, guys, we already have a great show." And they both look at me like, "What are you, an asshole?"
Oh, my God. Hey, John, I've known you a while, but not like back in the early days. Did you have the puppets all throughout, or were you a monologist and then actually morphed into the ventriloquism?
Just the opposite. I was a magician first. I was a magician, and then I said comedy magic, and then I added the puppet, and I kept noticing I was doing more and more of the ventriloquism than the magic. The ventriloquism was a good way to get to put down humor in without being as painful or making people hate you.
Yeah, I tell you, I remember working a show with you, and you weren't even you all they wanted you to do was just walk around and do magic. And some of the tricks it was me, and there was Vic DiBattista, and John just was supposed to walk around and do some of the I could not, and I was watching every hand movement. I could not figure out how he was doing these card tricks. It amazed me. He did some stuff when I used to do my old show out of my garage. John came down one day, and he was.
I remember that. Yeah, cannolis. Yeah.
Oh my God, my mother used to cook for us every week. Yeah. And it was great. And he comes, he's like, I didn't know you were streaming on like the web, because back then web streaming was new. So John comes in like sweatpants and a sweatshirt. He goes, why didn't you tell me we were going to be on? So
I remember that night. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
But just the tricks he showed me, but he wrote on the card with a marker. And then I forgot how the trick goes. It boggles my mind. I was always amazed at magicians and stuff and all that whole. And I saw one guy, and maybe you can figure this out, because me and Paul were watching this on TV. He saw the guy in half, and the guy's top half was moving, and it was this whole big thing. I forgot. Paul sent me the video. He says, and he knows a lot of magicians, and nobody can figure out how they did this. He said, I don't know. It just amazes me how that whole thing evolves with how the tricks are done. I think it's kind of hard, because how do you keep topping yourself as a magician to amaze people? Doesn't it get harder?
Actually, not harder. Well, first of all, that's the business of deception at magic, and comedy is the business of laughter. So
yeah.
So the thing is, when you're doing magic, you're trying to deceive people, but just deceiving people is not fun. It's deceiving people in a way that's entertaining, and that's the same thing with the humor. It's not just 1-2 punch and make a laugh and run to the next one. It's actually making people relate and feel it.
Right.
So it's not what you do; it's what you bring to it in entertainment business, no matter what the facet of or form that you're using. But I got to tell you, I love magic. And when it comes to ventriloquism and humor, I love it. I just live the life of these three things 24/7. That's all I think about.
I know.
I think about writing. I write jokes. I write comedy. I write magic. I create things. I perform them. I try them out. I use it for a year, let it go, start something new, create a new thing. Some things stick, some things don't. It just evolves, and it's almost like it's evolving thing always, but never stopping.
Right.
It's kind of like always evolving.
See, with somebody like you or Paul, when I see you's work, I can't picture you guys doing something that doesn't work, because it seems like everything you guys do hits.
Oh, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of things that don't hit as well, or you'd be surprised. And by the way, the worst part is that once if you're a closing act or you're headlining someplace and they expect you to destroy, and you're trying to incorporate new things and it starts going flat, it's embarrassing because they expect more of you. You're supposed to deliver.
Right.
So it's a hard thing to be in a position where you always have to deliver and then try to create new things and have them not work perfectly. And you have to grow like a plant. You have to grow the humor through something. It's not like you just write it, come out, and it works so every time. You have to grow it, and growing it is the painful process.
Yeah.
Like birthing a new bit. It's always painful, but once it's complete,
I think writing is even harder now because, and I got to tell you, I know John a while, and this guy does like 17 shows a day. I don't know where he gets his energy from. And God bless him. He deservedly so.
I love doing it.
It's
nothing. I mean, if I had $1 billion in the bank, I would just donate all my shows to charity work and do things that I really wish I had more time to do.
Yeah,
I like doing it. It's not like work.
Yeah, every time I talk to him, he's like, I got to do 2 shows at 1 o'clock and at 3 o'clock and then at 5 o'clock, and then I got to go to Maryland, and then I got to go back down to Florida and over to Ted. And you know what? What I wanted to ask you, John, is because I haven't talked to you in a while. With all the sensitivities nowadays of everything, with all the uptightness, does that hinder your writing when you're doing bits?
Absolutely.
Because you got to worry about
what.
Because
now it's making you think before you do something. But I found that I just commit sometimes and just commit to it rather than try to appease everyone.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I'm doing a new show. I'm not a new show, but I'm having the show taped at a theater in Pelham in October, and I had to decide what they want. The guy came and said, "I'll pay for everything, and we want to see if we can sell this on Netflix or HBO or whatever," which is a great opportunity, for somebody else to produce it. So I said, okay, and then they said, which way you want to do? You want to do a family show? You want to do a PC show? You want to do a balls to the wall show? What do you want to do? And I really thought about it because it's easier to do a family show and sell it than it is to do something that's edgy.
You're absolutely right.
And after a lot of consideration, I decided, something, let's go all the way and commit to the other side, the edgy stuff, because even though maybe half the country will hate you, there's another half of the country that wants it, and this is what's lacking and dissipating as time goes on. And I want to make my little mark in that, and then do whatever else comes up.
I agree, John. Everybody's walking on eggshells, and as far as comedy is concerned, I don't think years ago in the '80s you could say anything you want to anybody and they laughed it off. Nowadays, you got and what bothers me is that they don't realize that. It's sort of like being an actor on a stage. You're playing a part. You're doing comedy. It's not meant to be mean-spirited, but I think the audience will embrace the edgier stuff because there's still people out there that appreciate it. You can't say certain things. You can't be like, and this is the problem with the younger comics I see. They just think that dropping F-bombs and saying this and that is the way to make people laugh. But to me, it's a sign of a weak comic.
Yeah, I agree with some of that, but also a lot of the new comics I've been watching coming out, they don't even have punchlines. It's all like weird telling stories about their lives and things that are really not that funny.
God, right. Yeah.
I mean, humor is different to everybody. I get it. It's a big brush, but I still think there's some certain basic, inherent, organic pieces to it that need to be applied in order to make it work.
Yeah.
I like the old school 1-2 punchy bang fast humor. I like that.
Right.
And I like people that do clever, if you want to call it, if you will, clever dick jokes. I mean, I like people that do edgy humor in a clever way.
Right.
I think that's more intelligent, edgy humor. I like that rather than direct.
Yeah, if it's not distasteful. Like, first of all, if you're going to tell a story, you got to make sure the audience wants to take the journey with you, because not everybody is George Carlin, which I never. Yeah, I mean, he was a comedian, but to me, he was a wordsmith. There was like, just the way he did it, and that's where I think the disconnect is. They just think that, yeah, you want to tell a story, but it's just not. You just can't tell a story. There's gotta be some, and I think that's where the
But humor's different. It's different to everybody. It's a big, big brush. It really is a big brush, and everyone has their own who they like and what they don't like. I mean, what I tell you what I like, I'm only describing myself. It doesn't mean that the other person at the other end is the same.
Right.
I have people that watch my same show, and I'll have 300 people saying that was fantastic, and one person say, that one thing you did about the rape.
Yeah, and
and I'll tell them, I'm sorry you feel that way.
You know what?
I don't own it. They do. I don't own the problem. They own that problem.
Right. I'll take the odds with 300 to 1, 300 for and 1 against.
Thank
you know what I'm saying? All day long. But now, John, let me ask you. We're going to be working together on the 28th at Vibe. For somebody who's never seen you before, what can they? How would you describe that? What could they expect from you from watching John Peasy?
I'm a rapist. I'm totally a rapist.
I'm going to that show.
The show is a high-energy, interactive comedy, magic, ventriloquist show with a lot of crowd work, a lot of audience participation, and a lot of politically incorrect humor.
Wow.
So if you want to see Jerry Seinfeld, don't come.
Right, exactly.
I'm not that guy.
I
mean, it's a little bit of everything. Really, it's a variety show.
Right.
And I also gear it to the audience, so I'll tone it up or tone it down according to whoever's there. I mean, obviously, if the audience consists of a corporate event, I do corporate humor. If it's Orthodox, I'll do Jewish humor, and if it's a bunch of guys in a blue collar and we're drinking beer and having a good time, I'll open it up all the way. So it really depends on what's in front of us. I'll give people whatever they like, but I prefer to commit to whatever's in front of me, the majority.
And see, that's what sets you apart from most of the other comics. You're able to do that. Not a lot of people are able to do that, and that's why you've been around for so many years, and that's why you're going to continue to flourish. And I always have fun working with you because, we've been at some venues where, like, I think one time the cheesecake, I would have cut my arm off for a piece of this cheesecake that we had at one. I forgot where it was. I think it was me, you, and Levy or somewhere at a show.
You remember the cheesecake? Look at you, remember the cheesecake? How's that?
Oh my God, it was just a lot of fun, and you're always a gentleman. That's the whole thing about it. I've seen you like talk to people after the show, and you're just a regular guy. You got your maca tea in your hand, and you're just hanging out and talking to people.
Matcha
tea. I keep thinking, yeah. I knew it was something like that. I was
close. What the hell is maca?
I don't know.
Is that what you put on top of cheesecake?
No, matcha tea is a knife, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's Japanese green tea. I drink it every day.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to that, John. And if you want to, I'm telling everybody here, if you haven't seen John Peasy, you got to come out on the 28th and see him at Vibe Tap and Grill. Special discount for all people on Animal House Radio. Tickets are only $10. The number to call is 732-678-6795. Check it out. Call Elliot at El Rene Promotions and get your ticket. It's going to be a great show. There's going to be music afterwards. But John probably won't stick around because he's probably going to get on a plane and go to another gig that night.
And Carlo, where's the Vibe at, by the way?
I'm coming in that day. I'm coming from Atlanta.
Oh, wow. God bless you, though. It's going to be a Vibe nightclub is in Hazlet, New Jersey, so definitely check it out.
Beautiful.
But John, thanks again. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week, and be safe.
Cool, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Take care, John.
Thank you, brother.
John Peasy, everybody.
Yay!
All right, we're going to get out of here. We had a great show tonight. We ran 8 minutes over, Tim, but usually Gino's like, I got to go home.
It's not the first time I've been run over, believe me.
There you go. And Sandy's giving him a dirty look like, we got to go to the shop, right? I need bleach and I need cat food.
Hey, you may not realize this. She's been taking martial arts. I saw some video of you, by the way.
Oh, yeah, well, she's looking to kick Gene's ass, that's why. He buys her the wrong garbage can again. He's going to get it. But Tim, Eli, always a pleasure.
Thank you,
and,
Brother Carlo.
I hope you continue to show up every week.
I'll try as long as I can hang in here. I will. Man.
Oh, I know you will. And
I mean, the truth. I mean, I'm sure listeners will feel the same way. I miss a lot of the panel of Paul and Dave and Giselle especially.
Yeah,
But hopefully, with Steve, we did a good job tonight. I hope so.
Yeah, we held our own. Like I said, it's the more people here, the more fun we have.
Darn right it is.
But with your voice and Tony Katane's backing, we're gonna go far.
Oh well, listen, Jamie Lee Curtis is next on my list now. Obviously,
Yeah,
since
well,
she's going to be on the show. So.
My two goals are to land her and Steve Perry. That would be a nice feather in our cap.
Oh God, yeah, big names, big names, of course.
But I want to thank you all for listening. We'll see you all next week. This is the Animal House Radio Show.
Good night. It was good.
Stuff. Good
it was
stuff.
Good, man.
Gene, I tell you, you were flawless tonight as an engineer.